Welcome to the AskFaleskini podcast with a guest. I'm proud to present Beverly Jensen. Beverly is an expert in electromagnetic radiation and electromagnetic frequencies. Beverly, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I think I'm in the company of someone who has a broader experience than I do. My area is really quite limited to sort of household and personal wireless technology, and what you're working in is much more expansive. So I'm very excited to hear what you're doing too.
Thank you for these nice words. Let's jump right in. Where did you start? How did it happen? Why did you specialize in EMF?
Um, well, I have a sort of a quite unique beginning, and that is that my dad, my stepdad, was developing this satellite communication technology. He had gone to Okinawa, I think, in 1960, um, as a soldier, and then he quit the army and stayed on in the civil service, working for the U.S. Army Signal Corps, developing satellite communication technology. And so he had a workshop at the house, and most dads' workshops are hammers and wrenches and saws and those sorts of things to construct furniture, I guess. But the tools in my dad's workshop were a Geiger counter and an oscilloscope. He was measuring radiation. And every time I wanted to go into the workshop, visit him, see what he was up to, I would get this speech. If a device sends radio signals and receives radio signals, it's dangerous, it's radioactive, and stay back, turn it off when you can. And so that I never forgot that. I mean, I heard it regularly for all through the 60s. We were there in Okinawa. And then, fast forward decades, and when cell phones became available, I my 19-year-old daughter was commuting on the Washington, D.C. Beltway to a university, an hour each way, and I wanted her to have some way of communicating if it was possible. So I bought her the family's first cell phone. And I said to her, I said, now, don't ever put this against your head and keep it off of your body. Don't wear it on your body anywhere and keep conversations short. Hmm. That was 1999. And we were still using dial-up for use of on the computer for internet. And so fast forward another 20 years, as 2019, I did not remember my own rules when I was sitting in Mexico writing a book, and I was sitting about 6 feet from a router, uh, 8, 10 hours a day, 6 days a week. And I became sensitive to this radiation. And I didn't completely understand that until I traveled from Mexico to go see another one of my daughters in Washington, D.C. And I hadn't been in Washington for 5 years. And between 2014 and 2019, the city became blanketed with radiation levels. In fact, somebody it was some special photography, took a picture of the Washington, it's not Washington Square, but where the Washington Monument is. And you could see the levels of radiation in that photograph. Well, it didn't stay on the internet very long, but anyway, it's April, it's warm, and I'm walking down a street in Washington. My arms are bare, and as I'm walking, first my skin begins to itch, and then it begins to burn. And in the cities, the cell towers are hidden in architecture, so you don't see them, and you're not quite sure what you're getting exposed to. So I go from itching to burning, and finally, as I must have been very close to the tower because my skin began to crawl. And these are classic symptoms of non-ionizing radiation. So that was the first clue of what I'd done to myself there, sitting next to the router. And believe me, routers in Mexico are a fraction of the power that they are in the United States. I don't think I would have had to sit there for 3 months to understand that I was being harmed if this had been in the U.S. Anyway, that was my beginning to pay attention to what is going on. And I had a website since '03 on natural health, targeting American women. Hmm. And it was all about natural medicines, natural treatments, how to heal yourself. By then I was living overseas. My whole career has been international, and so I brought in, what I had learned from other countries, Ayurveda and homeopathic, which interestingly used to be a dominant medicine back in the United States in the 1800s. But anyway, I had that website, and began in 2019 to shift over to uh, EMF, or I prefer to call it EMR, electromagnetic radiation, because it's the radiation that's the problem. Frequencies can be healing, as you're going to tell us too. Uh, I've had a PEMF mat, pulsed electromagnetic frequency mat, which absolutely saved my life on a flight uh, when Wi-Fi was being beamed through a cabin in an aircraft. Um, so, yeah, that's in a nutshell how I got into this.
Okay, amazing story. I have so many questions I wanted to ask you. So,
Okay.
what do you think happened? Because I also remember, not in the 60s, because I was not born yet, but in the 80s, everything that was either radar technology or telecommunication, radio. If you were too close to the antenna of the radio station, it was dangerous. If you were too close to the radar station, it was dangerous. Um, and if you were using so-called walkie-talkies, was also dangerous, and that is why they had these mics on wire. Not you did not talk directly into walkie-talkie. If you were like professional, you had mic on the wire, um, and stuff like that. They knew so much about that in the 80s already. But then when the cellular phone technology came out, suddenly there were so many researches that proved that radiation is not harmful, and they say no, the exposure is not big, and phone has much smaller power than radio station or radar station, so it's not dangerous for the user. And suddenly, from being harmful or being communicated as harmful in the beginning of the 80s, in the beginning of the 90s, due to phone technology, these just
Um,
stopped being harmful. And we just completely lost our awareness of how these things can be harmful. What's your take on that? Where do you see the things going in a different direction? Because as you said, in the 60s, you already know that everything that
uh,
emits signal can be dangerous for the health, or not beneficial at least. And people were aware of that. And even devices like walkie-talkie would have disclaimer on them in the manual that you shouldn't use them too long and stuff like that. But when did this change?
In the 80s. And well, actually, as soon as there became a commercial interest in this technology, the community message started to change, and it's very clear that this is caused by the profit interests of telecommunication industry. And I think it was in 1960 at Cornell University, a project had been commissioned by Telecom. And as soon as they found out that this is emitting radiation that is harmful, slam dam, the whole project was shut down, funding cut off, and then the industry starts to vilify, to demonize the scientists, to blacken their reputation, saying this is, and they this was first done by the tobacco industry.
Mhm.
This is the playbook of keep quiet and create doubt. In fact, it was one of the tobacco industry leaders who said, "Doubt is our product." So for decades, they tried to convince the public that the cigarettes did not create lung cancer. Telecom's been doing the same playbook, and it's yeah. In fact, I talked to my dad about this. He passed away in 22, I think it was, and he said that the industry keeps trying to say that it doesn't create radiation, and it absolutely does. Henry Lee, a professor emeritus now at the University of Washington, um, he kind of got into this field because he was snagged by he'd been doing a research for the NOAA on the National Oceanography Organization, and and the study was how the ship's sonar was affecting the animals in the sea. And when that came out, uh, totally unbeknownst to him, the telecom industry just came down on him really hard. And so he started looking at what was going on, and he did a study of uh, I think it was a few hundred studies, researches, and he found that if the study was funded by the telecom industry, 75% of the studies would say that there was no effect. 25% would say yes, it was. And then if it was not funded by the telecom industry, it was the opposite. 75% of the research would say yes, there's an effect here, it's harmful. And 25% would say no, we didn't find any harm. And it's continued that way. Recently, Dr. Lee uh, uh, I think it's in Europe, and the study was they were supposedly updating the levels of admissible radiation. No, they don't call it that. That's sort of a forbidden word, but they were studying the effects and put out a new report. And Henry Lee has been tracking all the research on this, and he said that most of this damage caused by the technology is the what did I say before? Oxidative stress,
Mhm.
and he said, and in the studies that they used for their assessment at the European Council, there they ignored all of that research. He has a list of 397 researchers on this, and I think it included one. So it was like 99% of all the studies that were relevant to human uh, impact from the Wi-Fi were ignored. So that whole report, I think it was done for the WHO. It's really by the scientists who are truly tracking what's going on with the human beings. They found it quite damning and useless. Um, Damning because it continues then to allow harm to the people.
Yeah, that is amazing because in my facility, what I help people with is the because the body gets stressed and the frequencies in the body are no longer natural frequencies due to the, let's say, outside radiation. The frequency of the body changes on the whole body and different organs, and then we understand that as a disease. And we have a natural park, so it's part made in the forest and part in house, where we help people get back in tune with the nature's frequencies, or eliminate the EMR, negative consequences of EMR. But we have huge challenges now, and I would like to talk with you about that. For example, every car now has a Bluetooth device, and our phone is connecting to our to our car or car stereo, so that we have so that we can talk while driving, and that if we have Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, we can connect our phone directly with our navigation devices and all this stuff, and all this. And on top of that, we have now wireless charging. I believe that is one of the most dangerous or the most EMR emitting stuff is the wireless charging in cars. And we
For
all,
the automobiles,
yes.
unbelievable. Wow,
And I do believe that the new cars are just I'll say they are microwaves because
they are
we are there.
super microwaves, I think.
Yeah. And I do a lot of traveling from here in Slovenia to Switzerland and through Italy or through Germany, and it's about 600 miles in each direction. And if I drive in a 20 years old car without all this high tech, the car is much more comfortable than the newer cars with everything inside. Despite all the improvements of and better seats and all this stuff, but you don't feel worn out on the end of the journey.
So it's not the car is so much better. It's that you are so much better when you're driving in such a distance with the car, right?
Yeah. So what I wanted to say is that we all believe that the newer is better, um, but due to all the screens, also we have to be aware that every screen also emits EMR. And the cars now have huge screens inside. And we have all that. And on top of that, our phone is constantly being charged through electromagnetic table, or how we want to call it. And it's being connected to our system, so that we have everything interconnected. And there's a lot of radiation inside. And then we have a huge problem that it's almost against the law to or it's almost forbidden to say it. Electric cars have much higher rates of electromagnetic radiation than internal combustion cars. That is also one thing that we have completely forgotten when we went and bought our first Tesla.
Um, I can't even get into one of those cars. Um, there actually just yesterday on X, there was a video uh, by a fellow all about the what goes on in an electric car. and
Mhm.
he has diagrams, and he's got a YouTube uh, site, which I haven't found yet, but I will send that to you when I find it, because he had diagrams of the construction of these cars, talking about the magnetic fields
Mhm.
and all of the uh, different fields that are in them. And he said, if you drive a long distance in one of these vehicles, you're going to arrive uh, feeling totally fatigued and not well,
Mhm.
uh, which makes perfect sense. I've resigned myself to staying with a. My daughter bought a brand new Subaru Impreza in 2013. And it was kind of the last year before all this uh, computer technology was being put into the cars. She said, I want the older model, the 2013. It was the end of the year where she could get the 2014. She said, no, give me the older one with none of that. I think that will be my car for the rest of my days. Because, yeah, the Bluetooth, and it's becoming more common to be the connecting method for everything. And
Mhm.
it emits 7 times the amount of radiation as Wi-Fi. It's much worse than Wi-Fi. In fact, I had bought from Europe a healing device, and I'm sure it's excellent. But to to hook it up, you have to use Bluetooth.
Mhm.
And I tried over a period of weeks and months to try to do that. And as soon as I turned on Bluetooth on my phone, within seconds, instantly, I would have tingling in my hand, in my forearm, in my neck, in my face. I wrote to the company. I said, I cannot use this device. They were very kind to immediately refund my money. But the PEMF mat that I've had since 2016, and it connects by Wi-Fi. And then they started making it connect by Bluetooth. I said, well, you're going to have to continue to have the option of Wi-Fi or Bluetooth, or I won't be able to use this. And they have. They have. I don't think uh, the idea of people putting Bluetooth headphones on their ears, and the consequence in the brain is just frightful, frightful.
Okay,
Yeah.
I want to ask you a couple more questions. Uh, what is your advice how we should protect ourselves against what is happening? And if what is your advice when someone gets too much radiation, how should we get rid of that?
Mm. Um, I think what you're doing there and your community is the answer, and that is earthing or grounding.
Mhm.
I mean, I find airports and airplanes are the worst environments that I put myself into, because all other social events with large groups of people, I can choose not to go, or I can situate myself so that I'm not so affected. But when you get into an aircraft, and they're now, it's not as bad, and I've measured this. If it's wired Wi-Fi, and you use a USB cord to
Mhm.
plug in your device, that's okay. But when they beam Wi-Fi through the whole cabin, that is so destructive. Um, but so airports and aircraft are the worst. And I'm headed for this family home in North Seattle, and it's an oasis because there's tall evergreens around it, and it's fiber optic cable. When people bring it into the neighborhood, there's no cell towers within 5 miles, and because of the trees that protect us. Um, but I will spend 2 or 3 days on the grass to recover. And I haven't found those earthing mats to be very helpful. And if you're not very careful, you can make yourself in worse condition. You've got to make sure that those are that if you if you can't if you're not in a place, and most people aren't, where you can throw the cord out the window and uh, stick the conductor into the ground, then you're using the electrical wiring of the house. And if you don't confirm that that is grounded, you're cooking yourself. It's very harmful. So you have to be careful about that. But that's not nearly as effective as just being on the ground. The earth has got the negative ions that balance us and keep us healthy. Other than that, there are I think the ultimate answer and healing of this is some sort of frequency, and I haven't found it yet. I know of one person who did. He's actually, and I've said for years, I said Lloyd Burrell has got a secret. I mean, he overcame this serious uh, harm from the radiation, and anyway, he's now teaching. He has a program occasionally on learning frequencies. He's in France, but I think most of his podcast folks are in the U.S. I don't know others. If you know others, I'd like to hear it.
Yeah, so frequency work is usually extremely beneficial because the radiation, uh, I'll oversimplify that, but it should be radiation is throwing us out of our natural frequencies. So
Uh,
if there are multiple ways how we can get back to our natural frequencies. One is walk in the nature, swim in the ocean, and that is for me number one advice. And walk barefoot. If you walk
yeah,
barefoot, then you immediately connect with the earth's crust, but not on the paved road. You have to go out in the
yeah,
nature. um, Water is usually good, but if you swim too close to marinas and stuff like that, there is too many sonars and underwater
yeah.
radars. Not good or not beneficial. Um, and of course, we can do a lot with singing, and the singing was our primal way how to get into our frequency. And then
Singing?
singing, like singing a song.
Wow. Okay.
And then you have many different tools that you can use. For example, I have many devices like this. And
Tuning fork.
yeah, you have tuning forks, or we have different frequency devices that help us set the right frequency, like this one. We just set up the frequency that we want, and it will push our body towards desired frequency. It's not instant, but after a couple of minutes, we should feel better. So there is the best way is, as you have said, is protection. Avoid things that harm us. I do believe when possible, the trees are huge protector of of human,
Wow.
uh, because first they help stop electromagnetic radiation, and second they're in tune with the natural frequency. I know that there is like people don't like the term, but they use it as a diminishing term, tree huggers. But if you hug a tree, your electromagnetic field will synchronize with the tree's electromagnetic field, and this will help you recover from uh, electromagnetic radiation. Of course, that is not true if there's only one tree on your in your background. That's not necessarily true. But if you go in the forest, that's absolutely true.
Yeah, that's good to be reminded of that. Yeah,
Yeah. I do see this as a one is protection. By far, the best way to protect ourselves is some kind of farthest cage. That means that we install either copper or aluminum or whatever metal around the source of radiation,
uh-huh.
and this should lower radiation a lot. Then there are tensor rings. They will also somehow stabilize different negative radiations. Um, and of course, if it's possible, if there's a tower, you said that in Washington, there all towers are somehow how integrated in the buildings. But
Yeah,
if we see a tower from our house, we can always, if we have a house, and if HOA is not killing us for putting up or planting a tree, then we should plant a tree. And
yeah.
pine trees and similar are by far the best according to our measurement to protect us from electromagnetic radiation. So,
You know, you talked about the importance of walking barefoot.
mhm,
People need to be reminded that all of our shoes in this modern world prevent that connection, what the materials they're made of. Unless you've got leather sole shoes,
mhm,
you have to be barefoot to have this benefit of the walking. Of course, being in the forest is going to affect the whole body, but the most dramatic major connection is through your feet, uh, and that does require that you're barefoot or you're wearing some leather moccasins. But only a leather shoe of some kind would uh, be allowed to actually have this transmission in the forest. Uh,
yeah,
Feet
and we
getting
have
wet.
huge problem because socks are now high tech microfibers and stuff like that, so that they dry
Uh,
faster. That is all protecting us, or it's a resistor. It does not enable us to connect to the earth. We would have to have like socks that they used to produce in the olden days from cotton or stuff like that.
yeah, cotton or wool.
Yeah.
It's hard to find cotton clothes anymore. I mean, our clothes are now being made in a chemical solution, and it's really unhealthy. There's a new book out on this. It's terrifying what the clothing is made of. I mean, I've noticed for years I don't even look at labels or anything. I just feel the fabric,
Mhm.
and you can I call it plastic.
Yep.
It's a plastic dress, you know. But even if it's not that going that direction, all of it's got so many chemicals in it that it's not healthy. Yeah. Speaking of devices, I have one, and you will know about this as a scalar device.
Mhm.
And this is uh and it's got those frequencies on it for healing. Uh yeah. It also it also set that for all sorts of ailments. And
Mhm.
it's really rapid effect. He works with a lot of scientists in Europe. The uh, fellow who created this is actually from New Zealand, John White, but he lives in Nanjing, China. And this is, he said recently in a webinar, he said when he moved there, he went to all these factories creating batteries to find the most durable, long-lasting, safest battery that you could get that he chose for this device. But yeah, this is amazing. Whenever you can get something that energy uh, devices are, I think, the future of health,
Yeah.
how
So
we're going to heal ourselves.
So, I agree with you in a sense that most people will be forced to use these devices, else they will be sick. But the best future would be back to nature. And
Absolutely.
uh,
Yes. But I'm telling you, in many places out in nature, okay, so last year they passed a law through US Congress that they can put cell towers in our national parks.
mhm,
It's getting harder and harder to find unexposed nature.
mhm.
You know, I read a message from somebody living in the mountains of Colorado. And you would think that if you got out in the mountains, you're going to be safe. But because of Starlink, you're not. And
Yep.
he said the concentration of the radiation in the bottom of the valley where the houses are was horrific. This is so sad. You know, I don't know how we're going to keep the earth safe for humans and animals and the birds and the insects. All of life on the planet
I
is
would like
threat.
to have your opinion on one last topic before we wrap up. Is all this radiation and electromagnetic radiation, is that a gross negligence or is that planned?
Is it what?
A gross negligence
Planned?
that someone just don't know that they are doing harm.
Oh, they know. Yeah. So I mean, there was the Soviets did the most expansive studies from 1960 to early 90s. They did over 800 studies
Mhm,
of the effects on their workers in especially extremely low level environments where there was radiation. And they studied how much it affected the employees, the workers, and if they were in a factory for 2 years and they knew the level of radiation, they would track them when they left. If they went to an environment with no radiation, which you could do in 1960s and 70s, then they would recover. If they
mhm,
went from that 2 years in one factory, went to another one, and were continuing to be exposed to radiation, then they didn't recover. Um, anyway, they had done 800 studies, and the Department of Defense ordered the U.S. military, Air Force, Navy, and Army to conduct a study of the effects of radiation. They ordered this in 1954. When it was finally finished, decades later, 1988, they referred to these 800 studies by the Soviets. This is 1988. This wasn't made public until 1994. That's actually on my website, that military report. It's on Women's Medicine Bowl. Um, so they know what they're doing. I mean, and now they're talking about 6G. That's military weapons when you're talking about 6G. And the telecom uh, organization, they admitted at a congressional hearing that there have been no safety studies on 5G. And still it's being allowed to be rolled out. The Soviets, the Russians now, they said that 5G will remain a military wave, military band, that there will be no commercial use of 5G. And I think since they have done right now, the most studies are being done by Iran and Turkey. And it's interesting. Iran and Russia, two authoritarian countries, have the lowest permitted levels of radiation exposure. Turkey's got a lot of commercial interests involved there. So, democracy pays a price. uh, so that's not so true of Turkey. But the Soviets are keeping close tabs on this development. The United States is not.
Okay. So how should we wrap up? Where can our listeners reach out and get in touch with you? What can you offer to them? How will they get to know more about radiation? What is the best way to get in touch with you?
And what can they do about it?
Yeah.
That's most important, I think. I've got two websites. The Women's Medicine Bowl, BOWL.com, is the original site. But a year ago, I decided I needed to focus on moms. It'll be moms who will save the kids. And the children are so much more vulnerable than adults to this, beginning in utero. And there's been quite a bit of studies on this, the effects on the baby in utero. And in the first weeks after birth, the most dangerous time for the babies. Anyway, so on the second website is called YOU and ANDEMF.com. And that's all about the children and how to protect them and take care of them. On there is a page of steps to take to reduce the radiation in the home. I think it's about 7 steps. And I offer a free 20-minute consultation if you need some support. And usually I hear it's usually women. Women are more susceptible to this. We've always been more sensitive to the environment. Get more autoimmune diseases and all the environmental issues hit women harder than men. And the children, because they've got thinner skulls, the nervous system is just developing. They are in the most critical condition, and they're being born into this now. So there's a page there of 7 steps to take. I also have a course, online course, Fast Fix, because the moms are overwhelmed with all the responsibilities, and there's so many issues right now. Not just the EMF, but the food supply and the water supply, all of this. So EMF Fast Fix, and one podcast host, a doctor, said to me, and this was a good question. He said, in view of all of the problems we have now with health, what is it? Where does EMF fit? And my response was, if you've cleaned out the pantry, got rid of the processed foods, and are eating live foods and cooking at home, that's first. Secondly, is we can manage the EMF, at least in our homes, and become how aware. And some of it's just changes in behavior. This is simple but not easy. So it requires communication in the family, setting some boundaries, timing, the location of where these devices will be allowed. So anyway, that's on you and EMF and Women's Medicine Bowl. There's also a free ebook on how to protect the family with this. And it's ever changing because in the U.S., manufacturers and producers of all sorts of consumer products are sticking chips into everything. I mean, personal products, personal care products, every appliance that comes into the home, it's got a little Wi-Fi logo on it. And that means it's going to be pulsing and sending signals to the smart meter. Are smart meters endemic in Europe now, like they are in the United States?
Yeah, but we had it much before you start introducing them.
What?
We had it much before you started introducing it. We had it
Oh,
end of 80s, beginning of 90s. They were enrolled here.
oh dear.
Yeah,
So you've been coping with it much longer than we have.
yeah.
Yeah, well, every product that you bring into the house with a chip in it is pulsing signals to that smart meter. So your own interior home can just be a bed of EMF.
Mhm.
That's what I talk about on the websites and how to clean that up as much as you can.
Okay. Is there anything else you would like our listeners to take from this conversation?
Um, I think they need to understand the importance of this.
Mhm.
This is not optional. You know, this is truly harming us. There was a study there in Central Europe last summer of people who live within like 500 meters of a cell tower for over 5 years, and those who do not live anywhere near a cell tower, looking at the DNA, and they've found that chromosome damage happens. And when chromosome damage happens, then you are susceptible to all forms of disease and illness, including cancers. So this to protect ourselves and reduce this is got to be a very high priority. Or our health is everything. That a friend used to have a saying, um, I'm a person or a man with good health has a mountain of dreams. A person who doesn't have health has one
Mhm.
to have health.
Okay. Thank you very much for all these insights. And I will include all the links that you mentioned in the description below.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to meet you and to talk with you about your project. I want to know more about that too.